We are going to start. Good morning, dear friends, colleagues and guests. Welcome to the Biotech Healthcare Satellite Symposium at the 42nd Congress of the ESCRS. We are glad to have you all with us today as we explore some of the innovative advances in intraocular lens technology and vision care technology. On this platform, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate Biotech Healthcare for celebrating 25 years. It's their 25th anniversary this year, so congratulations Biotech, and also their 10th anniversary of their phakic intraocular lens. Before we begin, I would like to introduce myself. I am Dr. Sri Ganesh, founder of Netradama Hospitals Private Limited and Shraddha Eye Care Trust, India. I am delighted to be a moderator today, and Dr. Carlos Lisa from Spain will be joining me, but she's a little late, so we will continue with the session. And I would like to introduce our expert panelists. So we have Dr. Renato Ambrosio from Brazil, who is affiliate professor of the Federal University of Sao Paulo and adjunct professor of the Federal University of the State of Rio de Janeiro. Professor George Mehta from Singapore, Deputy CEO of Singapore National Eye Center and Executive Director at the Singapore Eye Research Institute. Dr. Ertan Sune from Turkey, Medical Director at the Veni Eye Hospitals. Dr. Jose Lamarck from Spain, Deputy Medical Director at the Barraca Ophthalmology Center. Now let's turn our attention to our speakers who will share their experiences with the latest development in intraocular lens technology. After each presentation, we'll have a question and answer session to engage our speakers and panelists. Now invite our next speaker, very prolific surgeon, again from India, Dr. D. Ramamurthy, my dear friend from Coimbatore. He is the chairman of the Eye Foundation Hospitals, Tamil Nadu, and he will discuss on achieving continuous range of vision with Optiflex TRIO PLUS IOLs. So these are a little different. These are diffractive lenses. So what I spoke about initially was the refractive lens.
Thank you, Sri Ganesh, and thank you for having me here in this session. And this is just to carry on from where Sri Ganesh left off and introduced you to another lens from the same company. Relevant to this presentation is the fact that I'm a consultant to Biotech. And basically, what I'm going to be talking about is an innovative refractive-diffractive aspheric design for continuous range of vision, and which tries to distribute light energy for enhanced continuous vision. Of course, we have several platforms in this coming from different companies. My endeavor would be to highlight the differences that have been brought about in these lenses compared to the other excellent peers that are available. So what's unique about this lens? I'm not able to show you the exact design of this lens simply because it's pending for patent, but the basic concept is that it is an EDOF design that was spoken about by Sri Ganesh, over which trifocality has been superimposed. Basically, the power in the trifocal segments is in the range of about 1.75 diopters and 3 diopters, and this is superimposed on the EDOF. And this combination is designed to mimic a natural crystalline lens so that there is continuous vision for all distances with enhanced quality. There's also optimal utilization for distance, intermediate, and near. And it's the diffractive patterns, as like in some other lenses also, do not have sharp edges but have a sinusoidal diffractive pattern to mimic photic phenomena. So how is it better than the trifocal lenses? We have all experienced many other trifocal lenses and have good expectations from them. So basically, as you see here, all these trifocal lenses, in the bifocal lenses is essentially 2 peaks of vision, one for distance, one for near. What the trifocal has brought in is a peak for the intermediate also. But in between this, there are valleys of poor vision, which essentially compromises the functional vision as far as intermediate is concerned. So this is essentially the through focus curve or the MTF curve for the classical trifocal lenses that we are most often using. This may be at 80 centimeters or 60 centimeters, depending upon the type of the intermediate vision, might be at 80 or 60 centimeters, depending upon the type of trifocal intraocular lens that you're dealing with. What this TRIO Plus, because of EDOF platform over which the trifocality is superimposed does, is to essentially minimize this dip so that what you have is a distance vision, intermediate vision and near vision. As you can see, right through the MTF curve remains quite significantly better than the conventional trifocal intraocular lenses. These are the comparison. It is only at this level, normally a 0.1 modulation transfer function is needed to create an image. And what you have over here is dipping down to about 0.8. And this small gap is taken care of by pseudo accommodation. So essentially what this lens tends to offer is distance, intermediate and near, right through a continuous range of vision without any breaks. So this is essentially the comparison between the conventional trifocal, which is shown in brown, and was the TRIO Plus, which is shown in blue. And what's shown in the gray area is the extra light energy that is being utilized by this lens because of its concept of trifocality superimposed on the EDOF platform. And how does it actually translate as far as the patient outcomes are concerned? We are all aware of the near vision, intermediate vision, and far vision. But in between these, there are gaps in vision. For example, when you're talking about near vision, newspaper, it might be quite comfortable for looking at the iPhone, which is held at an arm's length. But if somebody is holding a newspaper closer by, it might not be so clear. And similarly, desktop might be seen very well at a distance of 60 centimeters. But when you're coming to a laptop or when you're cooking, which are at a different distances, there might be gaps in vision. You might see a far object like the stars in the sky or something very far away quite well, but something which is closer by, like a tree in your backyard, may not be that clearly visible. What this lens tries to do is to provide you, because of the combination of the EDOF and the trifocality, a continuous vision from distance to near, so that all aspects of the visual requirements of an individual patient is taken care of. I think this is the selling point of this lens, and this is how it's differentiated from many of the trifocal lenses that we are quite familiar with. Another very important factor is that most of the multifocal, or rather the bifocal lenses, utilize just about 80 to 82% of the human spectral range, between 380 to 700 nanometers. The conventional trifocals, because of the light being directed to intermediate, utilize between 85 to 88% of light. But the Optiflex TRIO, the bench studies have shown that it utilizes 91.12%. So it's not that the extra 3% addition in the light transmission that's important. Essentially, all the dysphotopsia, all the glare, halos, etc., is brought about by the light which is not in focus. So in the conventional trifocals, you have about 12% of light which is not in focus, while in Optiflex TRIO is just about 8%, and it is one of the reasons that the amount of dysphotopsia that these patients experience is significantly less. Sri Ganesh did mention about this USAF images. For those of you not so familiar with it, essentially it is divided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This 4 and 5 essentially corresponds to the near vision. 4 corresponds to something like an N8 vision or newspaper reading, while 5 corresponds to the lettering on your vials or ampules, which is more like N5. So essentially what you see with the TRIO Plus is that infinity, 66 centimeters, 40 centimeters, right through is not just the 1, 2, 3, which is in good focus, but in 4 and 5 also the contrast seems to be quite good. And this is the comparison between the Optiflex TRIO and the trifocal intraocular lens, especially in the intermediate vision, as you can see over here. This is where the difference comes in. The 4 and 5 of the USAF images, which are extremely small, is very well in focus, both for intermediate and near. And the conventional trifocal, especially for the intermediate, it tends to drop off. And this is an advantage of this lens. So this lens is yet to be launched commercially. Basically, a pre-launch multi-center trial in 9 centers in India was done. So far, 81 eyes have been implanted and 3-month follow-up is available for them. 23 of these patients were implanted bilaterally, 35 of them unilaterally. And we in our center implanted about 19 eyes and have a 3-month follow-up with these lenses. This is just a short video of the lens being implanted. It's not very different from what we are all comfortable with most of our trifocal or even monofocal intraocular lenses. Single piece hydrophobic intraocular lens, 6 millimeter overall diameter optic, and 13.5 millimeter overall diameter. And it can comfortably go in through a 2.4 millimeter or 2.2 millimeter incision. You routinely do a hydro implantation, not using any viscoelastic. And you can see this lens being beautifully centered in the bag. not very different from all the lenses that we are used to in our routine day-to-day practice. And these are the diffractive rings that you can see. Basically, this is 2 months post-op bilateral implantation. What's in the periphery, 1.8 millimeters, you have a refractive element, and it's essentially the central element is about 1.7 millimeters, and it has 13 rings in all, and it's a distance between these rings is supposed to be a little more than what we have with the other trifocal lenses. Is the sinusoidal pattern of the grating, higher distance between the diffractive rings, and also the fact that the spectral transmission is in the range of 91.2%. All these factors combine together to contribute to a better quality of vision, less of glare and halos. So what exactly were the results at the end of 3 months of these lenses? 88.5% of the patients achieved spherical residual error of within plus or minus 0.25 diopters. Mind you, we still do not have the toric lenses. So essentially, these cases were pre-selected so that the amount of astigmatism pre-op was less than 0.5 diopters. 100% exhibit residual of less than 0.5 diopters. This is a tribute to both the lens and the kind of formula that was used, which is essentially most often the Barrett formula. And as you can see over here, what is seen in brown is the best corrected visual acuity. What's seen in blue is the uncorrected visual acuity. 87% of the patients achieved logMAR 0 at 6/6 vision, and 10% achieved 0.1, 3% achieved 0.2 as far as distant visual acuity is concerned. So essentially, all these patients had 6/9 or better uncorrected distant visual acuity, which is the most important factor as far as any intraocular lens implantation is concerned. When you come to intermediate vision, the results drop off a little bit. It's still quite acceptable in the sense that more than 95% of the patients have an intermediate continuous functional vision of 95% or more. And when you raise the bar to 6/9 or more, then 100% of the eyes essentially had an uncorrected distant visual acuity of 6/9 or better with all these lenses. And when you come to near visual acuity, 66% of the eyes had a logMAR visual acuity of 0. And with the proportion raises to, the numbers raise to 90% when you raise the bar to 0.1. And when it is 100% of the eyes had 0.2 logMAR or better visual acuity as far as near vision is concerned. So essentially, all these patients were spectacle-free for all their activities. Sorry about the nature of this curve over here, but suffice it to say, what it shows us, the defocus curve shows is that the Optiflex TRIO shows an uninterrupted post-operative visual outcomes for distance and near objects, right from -3 diopters of defocus up to infinity. And this translates to independence from spectacles. And when it comes to, this is the comparison with the monofocal, the unilateral and bilateral implantation, and you can see that both with the unilateral and bilateral implantation, the results are quite comparable. And even after unilateral implantation, the patients were quite comfortable as far as the visual requirements is concerned. And as far as contrast sensitivity is concerned, usually with monofocal intraocular lenses, you have a contrast sensitivity of better than 1.5. And what we found was that 81.25% of subjects had a contrast sensitivity of 1.5 better at a distance of 1 meter using the Pelli-Robson chart with these particular lenses. And glare and halos dysphotopsia, which is of a major concern with any trifocal intraocular lens, because of the combination of EDOF, trifocality, the sinusoidal ring pattern, etc. What we found was halos was reported by less than 3% of the patient, glare by less than 5% of the patients, double vision, color perception, distorted vision, etc. was not really a problem complained of by any patient in spite of specific questioning. And as far as the day-to-day activities are concerned, which extends from driving at day and night time to reading a newspaper, it was classified into excellent, very good, good, average, and near. None of these activities, the response was bad or average from the patient. For driving at night and using computers, a small percentage of patients said it was just good and they were not thrilled about the outcomes. But for all other activities, it was either very good or excellent. So patients were highly satisfied with the daily outcomes. And when they were specifically asked, would you choose the same intraocular lens if you are given a choice? And would you recommend the same intraocular lens to the others? 100% of the patients said yes. So to summarize, what this lens brings onto the table, in addition to the other platforms that we have, is that gives a continuous enhanced visual outcome at all distances, promising spectacle independence to the patients. It is a little different in the sense that it combines a refractive-diffractive EDOF hybrid technology. It's a trifocality superimposed on a EDOF platform, and optimal utilization of light for enhanced contrast in all light conditions, mimicking natural crystalline lens. It's pupil independent so that there's no compromise in visual quality in any light condition. And at least in the initial experience with 81 eyes with 3 months follow-up, there was 100% satisfaction. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Dr. Ramamurthy. Any questions from the panel?
I would like just to make a question. First of all, an excellent presentation. Congratulations, it's a very good work. And I would like just to ask about the centration of this kind of lens. I mean, have you seen any difference between other IOLs?
Actually, as I mentioned, there's a very small cohort of cases. We have just 81 eyes and 3 months follow-up. And this was, none of these eyes had any complication during surgery. So I assume we didn't specifically look for decentration. So we assume that all these lenses were well-centered. But having said that, there's a central disc of about 1.7 millimeters, and it's an EDOF and a trifocality combination. So I believe that minimal amounts of decentration of about 0.5 millimeters would be well tolerated by these lenses, but this has not been studied.
Dr. Ramamurthy, congratulations for your talk. Very nice presentation. We were really very happy with the previous model, with the Optiflex TRIO, in terms of the focus curve, light distribution, neuroadaptation. So it's not easy for us to move to a new IOL. So, but do you think that the profile of patient will be the same and that we should change to this model?
It's a constant quest to meet the requirements, all the requirements of our patients. As I showed in my graphs also, basically any trifocal lens, whether it's Optiflex, the conventional Optiflex we have been using for some time, or the other trifocals that are available in the market, in spite of distance, intermediate and near, but in between them, there is gaps there. What this lens, because of the combination of the EDOF and the trifocality that's there, essentially tries to minimize those gaps, fill them up so that the modulation transfer function in between distance, intermediate, near is also much better. So that's what is expected that this lens would additionally bring onto the table.
Ramamurthy, excellent talk. Can I just ask, is there a toric version? And if is there a toric version of the lens?
Toric version, I don't think it has come as it, but I think the company is proposing to come up with that. Obviously, we all know that that's extremely important to have the toric version. We can't leave behind any cylinder.
So in your study then, what was the tolerance to limit for astigmatism?
We pre-selected only such of those eyes which had less than 0.5. In some surgeons, it was 9 surgery centers. Some said it was 0.75 was the cutoff for them. We pre-selected only those eyes which had an anterior corneal cylinder of less than 0.75 diopters.
So do you think that the tolerance is greater because of the sort of dual complexity of the trifocality that's been created with a refractive-diffractive concept as opposed to a pure diffractive lens?
I think so. But given a choice, I'd like to take care of even minimal cylinder whenever we are dealing with any trifocal lens.
No, I think what is happening is the EDOFs are pushing the limits to give near vision, and then the diffractive lenses are getting smoother, so they become more like refractive lenses. So I think both of them are kind of coming to a meeting point where you get distance, intermediate and near. So what is your take on when you select an EDOF lens and when you select a diffractive trifocal?
Basically, I most often go for diffractive trifocals as of now in my practice, unless the patient is extremely demanding, because I find that whatever be the EDOF lens that's currently available with any platform, invariably there is a near vision requirement. It's not taken care of. So unless the patient is very demanding and says that he or she is not going to put up with any dysphotopsia, trifocal lenses are the way to go. And EDOF lenses essentially are reserved for those patients who are averse to any drop in the quality of vision, but at the same time looking for some kind of assistance in intermediate vision. I think platforms like this, which combine the best of technologies from the EDOF and trifocality, but at the same time minimize the demerits of both these lenses, would be the way forward when we explore combining these technologies along with playing with spherical aberration, light distribution, etc.
Thank you. Yep. See, there are different ways. The toric usually can be on the posterior surface, and then that can kind of take care of the astigmatism. Any of the audience have any questions? You can use the mic so that they are recording the session. So if there are no questions from the audience, I think we'll move on to the next speaker. And
Can I have some?
Sure.
Questions? Okay. We now have two state-of-the-art IOLs in terms of optical perfection and advanced technology. And yes, we respect that, but still we have the optical and physical and chemical data about the products, and we know the data, figures, and the measurements is okay. But the subjective part is, I think, also very important. I mean, you have a patient just coming to you for a demand of getting rid of the eyeglasses at all, and then yes, you just check the data, topography or CT, etc. And in physical terms, the patient is perfectly convenient, suitable for those EDOF and trifocal intraocular lens implantations, okay? So you need to discuss the differences between those IOLs with the patient. But in my country, in Turkey, I mean, the patients mostly tend to give the burden on the physician's shoulders. Well, they say when the discussion progresses too much in detail, the patients tend to say, well, doc, you know the best for me, so you go ahead. So you make the final decision. So you just take the most of the responsibility of the decision making. So you go forward with the decision you make. You choose EDOF or trifocal intraocular lens implantation, and then the results come. Sometimes perfect well satisfaction, and sometimes not. If the results is not very satisfactory, then you are the target of the blaming with the patient, you know. So I would like to hear some short sentences, if we don't have enough sufficient time for that, in individual basis. Which one of you how do you deal with these things, you know, in your personal data practice, if it's okay with you?
I think I can't agree with you more. Whatever we talk about counseling, finally the patients quite often forget what all was told to them before the surgery and only remember the kind of issues they face post-operatively, and you have to take responsibility for it. And most often, as far as you let them know that you understand their problem and you say that you have ways and means of solving this, and time is going to take care of most of them, I find, at least in my experience, it works out well. So essentially, I don't go through, or rather my counselors don't go through the entire choice of platforms that are available. Initially itself, we decide on what is going to be, the first thing we do is optical biometry to make sure whether it's a toric lens that's needed or a non-toric lens. And then based on the requirements of the patient, slot them into monofocal, EDOF or trifocal. What has changed in my practice in the last 2-3 years, instead of starting from monofocal and going to the trifocals, every patient we believe deserves a trifocal or a trifocal toric for spectacle independence and reasonably good quality of vision. Only those patients who are not going to accept the slight compromise in the visual quality that comes with these trifocals are then downgraded to EDOFs or monofocal intraocular lenses. I find that it works in my hands in most of the patients.